God is invested in the success of your marital relationship. God is invested in the happiness and in the peace of your home, because He is the one that established the marriage institution in the first place in the creation of human beings. And God therefore wants you to experience the peace, the joy, the happiness, the unity that He originally intended for Adam and Eve to experience in your personal marriage relationship with your spouse and with your family. Never believe for a second that God has left you alone in dealing with the issues that arise on a day-to-day, month-to-month, year-to-year basis that challenge the peace, the sanctity, the happiness of your marital relationship. And I want to encourage you, brethren, to understand that the power of God is available for you to use strategically to maintain peace, love, and harmony, because marriage is a blessing. It's a rich, deep, profound blessing to your life, to your thinking, to your attitude, to your family, to society, to civilization. And God is invested in maintaining the peace of civilization, in maintaining the stability of civilization. So your relationship is critical in the eyes of God to help to maintain that peace. So when issues arise, we need to understand that the warfare that we are actually fighting in the marital relationship, in the family, and in the home, it is indeed a spiritual warfare. And 2 Corinthians chapter 10 verse 3-5 reminds us that though we walk in the flesh, we do not war after the flesh, for the weapons of our warfare are not carnal, but mighty through God to the pulling down of strongholds. And since that marriage, since that the family is also a spiritual entity, when the issues and the problems arise, you cannot use the devil's methods. You cannot use fleshly methods to solve the problems that are arising, that would arise in your relationship, in your home life. You have to use spiritual methods, and people misunderstand what spirituality really is. Spirituality is balance. Spirituality is balance, beloved. That balance between the intellectual, emotional, and spiritual. So as you come to issues and points in your relationship where they are specifically challenging and you do not possess personally the mental fortitude or the emotional space to deal with the issues that arise, understand that you have available help from God, and God is counseling us today to cast down imaginations and every high thing that exalteth itself against the knowledge of God, by bringing into captivity every thought to the obedience of Christ when you deal with issues that arise, because in your own strength, in your own human ability, there will be some measure of failing. And so we need the power of the divine. We need the intellect of the divine. We need the intellect of the omnipotent. We need the experience of omniscience to be activated, to be made available to us, that we can be able to draw from that divine pool of wisdom to be able to put it to use to remedy our situation. So before you respond to the situation, or before you respond to your spouse in the incorrect way, beloved, submit yourselves therefore to God, according to James chapter 4 verse 7-10. And this is how you resist the devil. You don't resist the devil by shouting at the devil. You don't resist the devil by fighting against the devil. You don't resist the devil by breaking the things of the devil. You resist the devil by first submitting yourselves therefore to God. This is how you resist the devil, that he will flee from you. And it continues in verse 8 by saying, draw nigh to God and he will draw nigh to you. So your first method of response when the challenges and the issues arise in your family, in your home, in your relationship is to submit yourself to God. Draw nigh to God. Let your actions be that you go to God, that you may receive of his wisdom, of his grace, that he may apply his intellect, his knowledge, his experience, and his power to your situation, that it will be solved and solved completely and holistically. Or marriage at times will be like a merry-go-round. Marriage at times can be like you're walking around in circles, dealing with the same problem, the same issues that keep arising and cropping up over and over again. And they arise and they crop up because they were improperly or inefficiently or incompletely dealt with. And God wants you to deal with your problems complete and holistically. And there are those problems that take a span of time to be dealt with, or to be dealt with completely and holistically. And only God can grant you the grace to ride out that storm properly and composed in your correct frame of mind and attitude. Only God can grant you that grace, because you do not know the end from the beginning, and you do not understand completely the emotional, mental, spiritual makeup of your spouse, and you do not understand the pathology of the problem and the mechanisms that are necessary to bring about healing. And so God will grant you the grace. So beloved, draw nigh to God and he will draw nigh to you. Cleanse your hands, ye sinners, and purify your hearts, ye double-minded. And so this is Christ telling you not to assume the position that you are righteous in the relationship, not to assume the position that you are always right and never wrong. God is telling you to look at yourself. God is telling you to examine yourself. So you may be standing upon some measure of vantage ground or have some measure of leverage in the situation, but that does not mean that you are blameless, and it does not mean that you are guiltless, and it does not mean that you are not responsible or accountable to some part of the issue, beloved. But you must understand that you are responsible and accountable for maintaining peace, harmony, and love. And so in order to do this, you must remain humble in the situation, because how would you feel if God was to relate to you the very way that you are relating to your spouse and to the situation in a self-righteous manner, beloved? So even though the issue may arise from your spouse, do not go into your own corner and deride them for their flaws in their character. Recognize that there go you, were it not for the grace of God. Recognize that that is you in that situation. And so therefore, this is a time, this is the space, this is the opportunity to humble yourself before God and pray for your spouse if the issue is arising from your spouse, and continue, and if not, pray for the situation. And it says in verse 9, be afflicted and mourn and weep. Let your laughter be turned to mourning. Do not rejoice over something that happens. Do not rejoice over your spouse when they stumble, when they are being miserable. Do not, when they are being miserable and fretful and peevish and grumpy, do not condemn them for their behavior and their attitude. Be warm, be pleasant, be conciliatory, be encouraging, identifying that you recognize that they are being grumpy like Oscar the Grouch, but there is grace that is to be applied to the situation, and that you are here for them, willing to help them through this difficult time that they are experiencing emotionally today, to let them see that you do not regard them generally as miserable, but that they are going through a thing. Learn to separate the issue, beloved, from the individual by humbling yourselves in the sight of the Lord, according to verse 10, that He would lift you up, that He would establish peace in your relationship, beloved. And so the weapons of our warfare, how we fight to maintain the peace and the love and the harmony in our marital relationships, in our homes, in our family, they are not carnal, but they are mighty through God to the pulling down of the strongholds of discontent, to the stronghold, pulling down of the strongholds of strife in your marital relationship. So practice the presence of God. Practice humility in the sight of God, that you may be able to access and employ His methods to bring peace and love and harmony in your home, because He is invested in your success. This is the Word of Life with Andre Knight.